They give you 2 for 1, they sell you 3 for 2. But if you ain't got a buck, they don't give a damn about you. I spent my last Roosevelt dime. Drop.
Hello and welcome to WNHH Radio in Dateline, New Haven. I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make New Haven tick. Mayor Toni Hart makes New Haven tick morning and night, year in, year out. She's here in the WNHH studio for her weekly Mayor Monday checkup on what she and we are up to in the Elm City. Good morning, Mayor Hart.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Sorry, I had to cut you short on that interesting stuff you were telling me before we went on the air. I was pretty interested. We're like living that show. If you have a question for the mayor, feel free to pop it to us via Facebook Live. Go to New Haven Independent Facebook page and you'll see the video right there. And thanks to Gateway Community College and Birch and Moses PC for providing financial support for today's program. Can we pronounce a word?
What's that?
My German's no good.
Which word is that?
Doppelganger?
Oh, I don't even know.
Doppelganger.
Doppelganger. What is that?
I think you have a doppelganger.
Oh, really? Who's that?
See, I was going to ask you who's that. Because, like, you know, sometimes a doppelganger is someone who looks exactly like you. And we already got our first question. Thank you. We're going to get to that later in the show. We will definitely not forget it. So a doppelganger is someone who looks just like you and goes around town and people think it's you when they see you. Now, for instance, I used to be, when I was the New Haven Advocate, there was a reporter at the Register. We looked the same.
Okay.
And when one of us would leave City Hall, the other would come, and Carmine, the guy, would say, you were just here. This guy, Andy Brummage.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I got much older than he did very fast. We weren't doppelgangers anymore. Joseph Stalin had a doppelganger. Not that I'm comparing you to Joseph Stalin, I promise. That was on purpose. So there was this person spotted, looked a lot like you at a winter wonderland. Yes, they looked like, I think it was Mrs. Claus.
Oh, yes.
What was
Mrs.
that all
Claus.
about?
Sometimes she does look like me.
I thought she looked a lot like you, personally.
On Winter Wonderland, yeah. So,
What was that?
Huh?
What was that? Were you there too?
I was there.
Okay.
Too.
I
In
liked her
disguise.
getup. I liked her getup.
It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, this time I was both the mayor and Mrs. Claus.
Oh, wow. So you were both, there wasn't a doppelganger.
No, it wasn't.
You dressed up in a Mrs. Claus suit.
Yeah, I've done it for 12 years.
Where did you get the suit?
I got it a long time ago at what is it? The Costume Bazaar.
Oh, on State Street.
Yeah. I thought it would be fun. I started going.
It's got a gorilla mask there. Yeah.
Honda Smith, who started doing these things up in the West Rock neighborhood, and I represented that when I was in the state senate. And she would invite me, and then one time.
This was toy giveaways?
Yeah. One time Santa Claus didn't come.
Ooh.
And so I thought, oh, well, let me get a Mrs. Claus outfit. And, at least that way, if Santa Claus doesn't come, I'll be there.
Well, don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time that Mrs. Claus maybe asserts herself a little bit more? I have a feeling she did all the work in the back. Like
Women
really
always do.
I mean, I really had decided who got the elves ready, who made sure the stuff was ordered, who made sure the reindeer's antlers were waxed and everything. I always heard that was Mrs. Claus.
Yeah, and she made sure they were fed too. Everybody.
Yeah? Make sure everyone fed. Yeah, yeah. So you were at this winter wonderland. Was it? Remind me. Was it the Field House at Hill House?
It was, yes, the Floyd Little Athletic Center.
AKA the Field House.
Yes.
And what did you do there? You gave toys to kids?
We gave toys to kids that many of which were collected by our city departments, Public Works, Youth Services, and just kind-hearted people, all the Firebirds, the Flaming Knights, all of them,
So city workers got toys for kids who might not get many toys this Christmas, and you gave them out.
And yes, we gave them out, and I gave them out with Santa Claus. Guess he was a doppelganger too.
For Stephen Cousin?
No.
You know who used to always be Santa Claus was Mr. Peppy. What was his name? Frank, the guy who had the fruit market.
Yep, Frank. Yep.
Not Frank, was it? Steve Papa.
Steve Papa,
and
yes.
he looked like Santa Claus.
He did.
all year.
Yeah.
So who was it?
Well, someone who looked like Chief.
Alston.
Yes.
Right. Was there a favorite moment? A kid's face, a gift you gave out, a reaction someone had to you?
You know, it's always there was a favorite moment. There was one little girl who had the most beautiful beads in her hair, and you know, I could tell that her mother spent a lot of time fixing her hair, and she was so interested in Santa's beard, and she kind of shook her head a little bit, and her beads got stuck in the beard.
Really? The beads got stuck in the beard.
And so, but
So it was a one
Santa
alarm.
was very, he has very nice, nimble fingers, and he was able to make sure she didn't get hurt and that his beard was still intact.
All right. So a little fire rescue.
Yeah.
A one alarm at the holiday.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I don't know what it is about the littlest kids with those beads.
Yeah.
I just think they're so adorable.
Are
with
they
the kids with those
cute?
beads. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
very sweet. So I got a more serious question here from KCA Augustine. What is the mayor's response to Frank Redente's comments about how the Board of Education is being conducted? So thank you for the question. That's referring to the story that he resigned
Oh, he did
from the Board of
resign,
Ed
yeah.
and said that he feels that the kids aren't being put first and there's too much politics, and he regrets having supported the new superintendent.
Oh, that's surprising to me. And I'm shocked. I'm really stunned that he would say that. I've really enjoyed working with Frank. He you know, he has a long history of having worked with our young people and supported them. And you know, and while I would agree that, you know, whenever there's a change, oftentimes it just takes a little while for things to kind of like calm down and smooth out, and we're just in a system of change, and so I guess I don't necessarily see it the same way he does.
So in other words, you're not taking an opportunity to say something nasty about someone.
I have nothing nasty to say about.
I don't think you say that about anybody.
Well, I try not to.
I've sometimes not been the kindest about Donald Trump. Well, maybe not unkind.
Well,
You
I've
ever
just
been
been
a
trying to be
big fan?
honest about him, you know. I mean, he scares me.
Ms. Augustine, thank you very much for your question on Mayor Monday, WNHH 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. And no word from Bob yet.
Oh, well, he's coming.
He's coming. Okay. I want to get back to the school board, but first I wanted to ask you about Stellan Connecticut State University.
Mhm.
So apparently they've been ramping up the sciences, right? STEM,
Oh, yeah.
which is our acronym that, you know, old folks like us have to learn.
Yeah.
Science, technology, engineering, math.
Mathematics. Yes,
And
you
there's
got
and
it.
sometimes it's STEAM.
And that's arts.
You see, then you're just throwing in school. If you're throwing in arts at school, all right, Jim, STEAMGA. G-STEAM.
Oh,
But you
you're
went to
onto something there.
But you did STEM. You went to a mama STEM. This was STEM. This was science.
It
No
was
arts.
science.
Right.
No.
What was this? They have a new center there at Southern?
Well, they did. They built a new building there, and they're very involved in the Connecticut Next Elm City Innovations project, and they received some money from that project to do work to help build the workers for this new economy through some of the teaching and training that they do, but also to help invest in their in their programs that are sort of moving beyond what they would normally move beyond if they had adequate equipment. So we saw equipment in their biology department that actually worked between biology as well as chemistry, and they're all co-located in one spot. We went to the marine science department, and we met some local fish that you can catch in the Sound, the striped bass, and different kinds of bass. They're gorgeous, beautiful fish. I'm not a fisher person, and so I didn't realize how beautiful they are. But they take really good care of them. They study them there. I wanted to major in geology when I was in college.
Really?
And so we went to the geology department as well, and
What'd you end up majoring in?
English.
All right. That's good.
Hey, no, it's all right. But you know what's amazing that I learned while I was there is that we have all these quarries in our state.
Like Stony Creek. For
Stony Creek, and the Stony Creek and I guess it is, but anyhow, the stone that comes from there, there are only two places in the world that have that kind of granite. And, it has that little pink in it as well as sort of like the regular granite. And I think the other place that has it is someplace in Africa. And there was a time in the Earth's history when they were all in one place, and then as the Earth sort of broke apart and things moved, one's here in Stony Creek, and the other one is somewhere in Africa.
That's mind blowing.
Isn't that mind blowing?
That's mind blowing.
But what is also mind blowing, I think there might be 9 or 10 of these quarries. They all have different types of stone, and a lot of it is used here in the state, but also around the world for various uses. And you don't really think about stone and economy in one breath here in this state, but it was a really big part of our state.
Wow, that sounds really interesting.
And I guess continues to be.
And Southern's stepping up the sciences, as has Yale stepped it up. They feel
and
like
the other thing is they have...
and Bob will be with you in a minute. Bob did call.
You can look at stars all around the world there. They are connected to those Hubble-type telescopes all around the world, and you can see what's going on, like in at least 5 or 6 different places in real time across the world. It's amazing what they're doing there.
Sounds like you had quite a nice visit to Southern.
Yeah, it was really. And, look, I learned the word nanotechnology as it related to Southern, and, they prepare people to work in the nanotechnology industry.
All right.
Yeah.
Bob, welcome to the last edition in 2018 of Mayor Monday. How you doing, buddy?
Okay. Hello, Mayor. How are you?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Okay. A couple of questions I have for you. They're good questions.
We'll see, Bob. I don't know. Sometimes.
Well, we'll see is right. My first question is about where you stand on this civilian review board. It's going to be taken up tonight.
Let's let our listeners know.
Meeting.
Yep, they postponed it. They're going to vote tonight. Activists asked them to continue to postpone it till the alders figure out where they stand on whether they can have subpoena power on a board that reviews the police.
Well, there were a number of things that I think the advocates asked for. They also asked for the ability to do investigations, and of course they want subpoena power. My corporation counsel, John Rose, believes that they have it already, and it's implicit. So I think that there's going to be a compromise. I predict a compromise in the offing.
So whenever someone who really knows what's going on, like the mayor tells you she predicts, that means there's something there, right? Was there some compromise floated?
Well, I think that, the initial bill didn't have investigations in it, and, I wouldn't be surprised if that's in it.
How about subpoena power?
I think that I don't know whether or not that's going to happen this time. But, the original bill had was an ability to assess the program in a year and to make a determination about what is needed to make it better.
I still can't figure out from the beginning here why they went to all the trouble of putting a charter referendum on the ballot in 2013, which is such a big deal. And the only point was to give it teeth. So if you're not going to give it teeth, why did you go through all this?
But
I know it wasn't your choice. You had nothing to do with that. I just don't get it.
But there were some things that made it difficult for it to operate. And, and I don't think subpoena power was the biggest problem. It was that the way that it was set up was that the community management teams had to elect people to be on the Citizens Review Board. And some of them didn't think it was important enough to do.
I thought that was the new version they did after the referendum. I thought the old referendum, the mayor just picked the people.
No, I think it was the community management
okay.
teams.
So I'm learning something here.
And so they're going to have a better way of getting people on, and hopefully it'll be a much more stable organization, but they had trouble getting quorums from what I gather.
Gotcha. And Eric Mastriano Sr. says, good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Eric. Glad you're still listening. Bob, you had another question for Mayor Hart.
Yeah, well, I don't know if my question was answered by the mayor. I asked you whether you were for it or not. What do you?
Well, I told the group, as well as I told the president of the board that this was something that the board, through the Charter Revision Commission, they set most of that up, wanted to do, so that I would be instructed by what it is that they do.
And you've said this before in the air.
Yeah.
You said this was their baby. You're fine with the goal of a better civilian review board, and you're going to sign what they give you.
Yeah, I've said that before.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't changed my mind. But I do think the fact that, that people had concerns that they wanted to take it to another level, I believe that you'll see it going to another level, will make it better. And so I commend everybody for trying to work together and trying to move it to another level from where it came out of committee. And so I think having this time and working together was good.
All right. Democracy worked, I guess. Bob, other questions for Mayor Harp?
Sure. My other question, Mayor, is about Governor-elect Ned Lamont wanting Nancy Wyman to basically chair the Democratic Party and not Nick Boletto anymore. Your opinions on that?
Nobody consulted me on any of this,
Okay.
and I'm not on the state central committee, so I, as my mother would say, I don't have a nickel in that quarter.
I like that saying.
So you have no comment as far as Nancy Wyman replacing Nick Boletto?
You know what? I think that Nancy will do a good job. I think that Nick did a good job, and
You're always dissing people. I never have a nice word to say.
So I think it's already happened. So I think that the Democratic Party, we're a strong party. We're going to move forward.
And Bob, I just got to lower you for 1 second because we got some other call coming in here. On the state chairman, I think that every governor coming in, it's just known that the governor gets to pick who the governor wants to have come in, and the governor-elect felt that it was time for some, a change, new blood, new administration, and I would never hold that against him because it's always fine to have new people come in and a new governor set a new agenda. I mean, that's sort of the idea, right? It's kind of funny. We put a headline on Nick Boletto punished for winning elections. I mean, you think about it, that was the most successful year for the Democrats we've seen in decades.
Right.
They won every statewide office, and they went from a tied Senate to almost a supermajority and the same in the House. I don't think that means he's therefore entitled to stay chairman forever, but he did do a good job.
Yeah.
But he wasn't for Ned Lamont for governor. And that's another reason the governor has a right to feel comfortable that his team is in charge of the party, right?
That's a good point.
So not that all this stuff matters as much as tax policy and human rights, but
it's what people talk about and think about from time to time. So, I think you make a very interesting and good point.
All right, Bob, any other questions?
Yes, I did have one last
one
question.
more. All right. Went from 2 to 3.
A yearly question that I asked the mayor. Mayor, positives and negatives of your administration this past year?
That's a great question.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Bob, thank you so much for thanks for calling in all year. All right.
Well, I think that one of the things I'm really proud of is that for the past 2 years, if you look at real murders and not things that have happened in self-defense, for the past 2 years, our murders have been down for lower than they have been in 50 years. So, and that our shots fired, you have other communities throughout the United States where guns are a real issue. They're becoming less and less of an issue. Here in New Haven, I mean, we still have too many. It still happens far too much, but way down compared to other cities in our state. Our graduation rates are up. When I came in, it was around 68%. It's now at about 80%. So that, kids are graduating from high school. And then our persistence in college for our young people who go to college, it's 2 years. And that really says that what they've learned in our schools has given them the resilience and also the academic foundation to stay in school. So I am proud of those things. When I first became mayor, our unemployment rate was around 10.7. It's now down to 4.9, so that unemployment...
Wow, that's a big drop.
That's a big drop. And so more people are working, and I'm really very proud of that. I look at the work that we've done on on small businesses. I think that's great. We've done a lot to support them, and most recently, over the past 4 days, we had the Holiday Village that really focused on small businesses. And, one of the projects that we've been working on is the Clean and Safe Neighborhood Project, which started in New Hallville, then it went to Fairhaven, Farron Avenue, now the Hill neighborhoods, and we've gone through, identified in those neighborhoods that, and we thought about this whole thing called the broken window syndrome. What's happening? And so we looked where there was
Or
the
little
most
problems that are symbols of breakdowns become bigger problems if you don't clean them up.
and you have more crime. So we went into those neighborhoods and we began to address the things that we could do. Could we make lighting a little bit better? Could we trim the trees a little bit more? Could we improve the roads? If we needed to have, like in
We do a lot with buildings too. Buildings that are falling apart, under code, dangerous.
That's right. Getting the landlords to, or the people that own the buildings to do something with those. We did a lot for businesses that were in the Farron Avenue neighborhood that were not really operating to code, but we offered services to them. And we're doing things in the Hill. We're putting the blue light cameras and I believe phones up in New Hallville and in Fairhaven. We're taking a look at, when we went out there, we realized that we have so many bus stops that we really could lose a few of those and it not really hurt anything. And so we've had
big
public
picture
hearings.
for Bob. You feel violence down, graduation up, college persistence up. You're cleaning up neighborhoods with safe neighbors. You think things are good. Any downsides to the year?
Oh, there have been problems. Certainly people wondered
Drama.
Drama. People wondered why I gave my staff who hadn't been given raises in 7 years raises, and so there've been some of those kinds of things that people complain about. I think it was unfortunate when one of our trusted employees took another employee's credit card and used it, and so I'm a little unhappy that happened. But when you have 4,000 employees, things happen, and sometimes people make poor decisions.
Are there 4,000? Does that include school
Board of Ed? Mm-hmm.
So it used to be 5. We've cut down government 20%, I guess, over the last decade.
Yeah,
or two.
we've cut it down, and
State too. State workforce went down.
Yeah, and we're still doing the very best we can with fewer people.
All right. You're listening to Dateline New Haven's Mayor Monday, last one of 2018. I've had a great year on Mayor Monday. Hope you believes like the tea. 11, and you can send in your questions. Ms. Augustine had another question. I'm going to try to read it here about whether you're going to follow the recommendation to have a parent join the Board of Education to be sort of the parent representative the way Daisy Gonzalez was, like when you replaced Frank Redente.
We already have parents that are on the board. Jamel Cotto, Tamiko MacArthur, Joe Rodriguez. I have 3 parents on the board. So I think that people wanted to have an educator on the board. So I'll see if we can get an educator. And
does that mean you need to have a PhD to be on a school board? That kind of
argument?
No,
but you might be a former teacher or somebody.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Like she used to have, wasn't Nast the former teacher?
Well, he was also a former superintendent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have Ed Joyner. He's done some, he was an educator.
Oh, no, he actually teaches or has taught in education school, I believe, down in the Bridgeport area. So he teaches educators.
Yeah.
And he's on the board.
But you're going to have a second educator then.
So we'll have a second one that maybe is more like a teacher, perhaps. I don't know. But, for those that are interested in becoming members, they can see Esther Armand in my office and get a form and fill it out. I think you can go online and get that form, but get it to Esther and she'll be doing initial interviews. And
so maybe we'll put the link in the Independent. Anyone interested? If you're an educator, though, educators need apply.
Well, we'll look at everybody who's interested.
Right. If the most amazing person pops down from the sky, you'll give that person a chance.
And, we probably want to make sure that those who are not Democrats apply, because we have to have a party balance on the board.
Okay. So you want a non-Democrat.
That would be helpful.
I always wondered, do some cities, just when they have rules like that, have people sign up as independents or Republicans when they're really Democrats? How do you avoid that?
Well, I think I don't think you can. And oftentimes you might have a Republican in New Haven that looks very much like a Democrat.
Right, when like 10,000 or whatever came in for the 1979 primary, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And stayed permanently. That's old news. The Board of Ed also, there was some issue about last week. Carol Burks, the superintendent, said she couldn't be in a room with the school president, and someone was looking into it. There, you told my reporter that there's an investigation of some sort. Was there anything to that? Was she unsafe in the presence of the school?
But we haven't really gotten the copy of the investigator's report yet. But I think so far from what I've been told, it looks as if it's not a safety issue from a physical point of view. So I don't know. I mean,
okay. So people are physically safe, but there's an investigation going on into some concerns the superintendent had about.
Well, as the chief elected official of this city, when someone says that they feel discomfort, under, I believe I have an obligation,
of course,
to look into it, and I didn't think there was anybody in the city who could actually do that, so we hired a neutral person to do that.
Oh, really? Who was that?
His name is Andrew Crumby.
Okay, and so he's doing an investigation into the superintendent saying she.
Yes, he's doing an investigation into that. So we.
She said she was unsafe, or what was it? I guess I was really unclear what this all was. There were all these rumors flying around.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty much as you've said, that there. So we will find out more as soon as I get the report.
Okay, but you're saying there's no physical. If you'd be concerned if there was a physical.
Yeah, if there was a physical discomfort, I don't think that's it.
Do you think that she's going to still be the superintendent in a year?
I don't know.
We hear so much about, like, is she leaving? Do people want to drive her out? It hasn't been a smooth transition.
Well, I've got to say that I've worked with her today. As a matter of fact, we rode on the school buses together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she's a really smart lady, and she has some really great ideas that I think our district would benefit from.
So you think she'll stay in the job?
I believe so, yeah.
So
I have no reason to think she wouldn't.
So you started the day riding the school bus. Where'd you go?
Well, we started out on Lexington and Grand, and then we ended up going to Troop School. So kids from all the way over on the other side of town end up going to, not Troop, but Truman School.
Why do they do that?
I have no idea, but I kind of think that it might be that Truman School has a program that works with Spanish-speaking young people, and so that they have a greater opportunity to.
That's so interesting, because you have the dual language school right in Columbus School, and you also have Fairhaven School, which has heavy ESL.
Well, it might also have to do with populations at those other schools, and that there just isn't enough room.
So did you enjoy the ride?
Well, you know what? We live in a very beautiful city. I loved going past Quinnipiac Avenue and seeing the Quinnipiac River. And, what I worry about, though, and I think the superintendent does as well, is how long kids are on a bus trying to get to school. It's one thing coming in the morning. It's another thing coming at night, especially with...
It's also true in West Rock. I know the school there that people sometimes ride the opposite town. They're an hour each way.
And so we also went to Catherine Brennan.
Yes, I met.
Brennan Rogers. And so I was so inspired by a teacher at that school in her room. It was amazing.
Who's that?
I believe her name is Mrs. Slank, I think. Oh, my gosh.
What about the room? Tell me about it.
Oh, she had these wonderful, inspiring sayings all over the room. She's quite artistic. her door. She had this wonderful snowman. But then what she did outside of the door on her boulevard, you know those little snow globes?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, she had pictures of all of her kids in what could be a snow globe, and then they had to write what they wanted to have with them in the snow globe. It was really amazing.
What kind of stuff did the kids say?
Oh, one child wanted to have their best friend and their sister. Another one wanted to have their mother because their mother did such good things for them, and just lots of different things. And somebody wanted to make sure they had a phone. So it was really interesting. And beautiful.
In my observation, people in elected office and reporters, when they actually go on a school bus or go into a classroom, their happiness level goes up.
Yeah.
Sort of like you're seeing a difference. I remember John Daniels, especially, go to a school, or John DeStefano. I remember they just feel so much better being with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing them. Yeah.
No, it was really great, and for there to be so many positive ideas in almost every classroom that we visited at Catherine Brennan, I was just really amazed by that, and by the teachers that are so committed to our young people and use their creativity to come up with these things that I would have never come up with. Not that I should, but that teachers are very, very special human beings, and we should just really hold them up and give them high praise whenever we can, because they do wonderful work to sort of like form and frame our young people. It's just amazing.
Well, the praise is coming on Mayor Monday. WNHH Dateline New Haven 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenindependent.org. Thanks for checking online, folks who are listening. You are on Quinnipiac Avenue, and you might have passed the oyster farm that they're talking about expanding now.
Yeah.
They've had an oystering industry there for a long time. Now they want to make it bigger. So that plan's coming up.
Yep. I think it's a good idea. It's part of our history and part of today. I was always surprised to find out that oysters were such a big part of our economy over time and even today. And I remember being in the General Assembly, and there's a whole group that advocates on behalf of the folks that do agriculture in our state, and it's amazing that it's still a going, thriving business. And I think are we number 3 in the United States?
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
For oysters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I knew that we had quite a history of it.
Yeah.
Even before it was part of New Haven. And then you drove by 2 areas on either side of the river where old buildings that have historic designations are falling apart.
Yes.
And then you have the Brewery Square. You had a building there, and now there's one on the other side of the river too, right by the oyster farm. And it raised an interesting issue last week. People said the city has no choice when a building might collapse. You got to do an emergency order and say, take that building down. We don't want anyone getting hurt or killed. And the frustration of some of the neighbors who care about historic preservation is that before it gets to that point, if the people let it deteriorate, and it might make more sense for them to tear it down and build new rather than rebuild historic specifications, they feel there was demolition by neglect. And there was a lot of talk last week about how do you prevent that in the city. I don't know the answer to that, by the way.
Well, I know that
I guess
it's a concern.
Enforcing the code, yeah.
And that we have got to do more to enforce the code. I saw Chief Alston sent a drone up there. And so when you look at the building from the street, it doesn't look as dangerous until you look at it from above and you see that the roof is about
I don't think anyone was questioning that it got to the point where it's dangerous.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that we've got to do is think about whether or not we should fine people who let things go into that kind of disrepair, so that there's no choice but
and therefore it doesn't become worth their money.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What do you think about the new medical marijuana dispensary that was approved for the old Tommy K's at East Ramsdale and Whaley? Used to be a video store. Now it's going to be the new trend, your medical pot store.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we know that it has medicinal purposes, and it's got to be somewhere. And
you can buy it here. You can get the business in Brantford, right?
Yeah, and there's parking there, so I don't know.
And you get a tan too. Get a buzz and a bronze. What do you think? Some people were concerned that it's so close to the Crossroads drug rehab. Or is that apples and oranges?
I think it's apples and oranges. The people that are in Crossroads, in all honesty, are people who are trying to get off drugs that are even more addictive than marijuana is. So, I think that I think that politically, maybe 20, 50 years from now, people are going to be scratching their heads.
Like, what was that all about? Like prohibition?
Yeah. Like, what were we doing and why?
I know. I think I agree with you on that one. So Yale New Haven Hospital has a new plan. They want to create a new primary care center, consolidate its other places where poor people get health care, go to the doctor, to a nice new building on Long Wharf, state of the art, and have the Fairhaven Community Health Center and Hill Health Center run it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've endorsed that general idea. I think it's a good idea too. And one holdup of it before the state says yes is transportation. They went and rode the buses and learned something new. And we've been saying for 8 years, the buses don't make sense in New Haven. It could take people who are older and kind of bad physical shape an hour or more to try to get there and have to walk blocks in the rain. And so Yale said, well, we'll send Ubers. And some people say, well, is Uber the best way? What do you think about that plan?
Well, I do think that one of the things that we've been working on in New Haven is trying to rationalize our buses. And we used that $1 million, and we are still studying it to try to figure out.
Unbelievable. And then the result after 8 years of the study a couple weeks ago was what we said over and over and over again. The routes don't make sense. They're based on 1950s travels patterns. You got to have different routes and more availability, different times. I don't know why it took $1 million 8 years to get there.
I have no idea, but at least, like we can hopefully move things forward and make it a little bit more rational. Uber, if it works, is actually, I think if I had to decide if I was sick and I needed to get to primary care, do I want to go out and wait for the bus or do I want to take an Uber? I don't know. I think I'd take Uber.
Uber is job creation.
Yeah.
For people. A lot of people are paying the bills by doing Uber. Will Uber squeeze them more is a question. I believe there might be a strike this weekend, Uber and Lyft workers, about some of the conditions. But yeah. So you're okay with the Uber idea? You think that?
I think it's fine.
And Mike Harris, your legislative aide, is one of your top advisors, is making a lateral move to the Economic Development Corporation. EDC works hand in hand with the city, but it's quasi-public to promote economic development. He's going to focus on what he's been doing for you recently, which are some of these very interesting innovation programs you're doing with state money to help companies hatch. Tell me about that move.
Well, he has been working with the ECIC program, which is a part of Connecticut Next. We were one of the first cities in the state to get the dollars to build these ecosystems to develop IT and bioscience in our city. And so he's been working on that. I think it's really been something that has interested him, and he's focused a lot on it. And when this opportunity became available, he said that he thought that he would like to pursue it more. And I'm always someone who believes that, look, you've got to do with your life what you think is important to do. And so this is something that he really wanted to do, where his heart is. And so I wish him the best.
I always love when a valued person actually leaves, even though I want them to stay as long as they want to, when they have new opportunities and they've grown from where they worked before.
I think so. He's done a phenomenal job for us.
Replacement in mind for him?
Yeah, there's a gentleman named Robert Reed who will be working as our legislative liaison to the General Assembly.
And who is he?
Robert Reed.
I mean,
he's
some guy.
No, he's someone who's been active mostly with the Chamber of Commerce and done some things. So I think he'll be good.
So he'll know who to talk to in the room and what to say.
And Mike is going to work with him and help him. He's still going to work with us.
He put a lot of energy into working for you, Mike Harris.
He really did. He's such a smart guy.
Yeah.
And we were really blessed to have him work with us for as long as he did.
Last week on the show, we talked about the Department of Transportation wanting to build that second garage, that we're having second thoughts about their design at Union Station. After that, Susan Bysowitz, the Lieutenant Governor-elect, came on the radio and said she wants to hear more about what you're thinking. That's a new administration, and they're open to the idea of promoting more transit-oriented development. Where's that standing? Do you want to see it stopped or just changed?
Well, I think that we wanted to slow it down so that we can make sure that the decisions that are being made are made based upon what will happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And so we think it's important to slow it down. We also, when we agreed to take our bill out of the legislature that would basically transfer the property to the city, there were 7 or 8 things that the state had agreed to do. So we want to go over that list and just to see where we are with that. But I don't think any of that should move forward until when we determine that it's absolutely necessary 20, 30 years out, and 2, that all of the things that they agreed to do, that they do. As I think about it now, it's, it's a beautiful sight to go down Church Street South and to look over at the Union Station building. It's the design of that building is just beautiful, and with the lights and everything on, it's one of the most gorgeous buildings in our city. And so it occurs to me that does it make sense? We've been running the garage, the building for 30 years. We have maybe 2 more years. Does it really make sense to give that over to the state, the building itself, or should we keep it? So I've been thinking about that as well.
Sounds like an interesting topic for 2019.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have more of an ear in the governor's office.
Yeah, I think that I think they want to work with us.
That was a tough Department of Transportation those last 8 years.
Oh my goodness, they just the thing of it is
Department of Cars.
You know what we used to call them in the General Assembly? We used to call them the Principality of DOT because they really seemed like that they were their own form of government, and I think they really believed it too.
So, any other thoughts about the 8 years of Governor Malloy ending up his tenure, his record?
Well, first of all, one of the things that he did that I think was one of the best things that anyone could have done is that he understood that the state had to have a housing apparatus. And so the fact that he developed a department on housing and then he tried to address housing, I think it will bear even more fruit later on.
He did a lot of transitional housing, supportive housing.
Supportive housing and just supporting the housing, the state public housing that we had. It was falling apart. But, he did a lot of coastal sustainability work. And the first thing that he did before I even became mayor was to the Q House, $15 million for the Q House. He did, again, it was before I became mayor, but his first 5 was the Alexion building over there at 100 College Street. And I think that when you look at our roads and the other kinds of things, our infrastructure, that he will probably be known as the infrastructure governor. So with housing, our roads, he has done a phenomenal job.
You think he had a good 8-year tenure?
I think he did. While I don't necessarily think that I agreed with it at the time, but I think the fact that he forced articulation between our community colleges and our state colleges is really important, so that when you go to Gateway, that you can automatically transfer to Southern or to Central. Those are really important things, and that's an important thing that he did.
Second Chance Society, I thought was his number one, getting rid of the death penalty and clearing out our jails so people don't need to be in jail.
No, I think that was important as well, and I think definitely helpful to the bottom line of the state.
I didn't really understand his low popularity ratings. And I'm supposed to understand that. That's what I'm supposed to do, pundit eyes. But I really don't understand it. I mean, I thought he did a good job. We had a lot of problems with our budgets. They're endemic that he inherited. I thought he touted them in a serious way. I obviously disagree with him deeply about bus service. But I mean, on the big picture, Second Chance Society, dealing with some of our structure policies, immigration, dealing with the storms. He said the coastal stuff. He dealt with trains. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did a good job. I liked him as governor.
Yeah.
I would have supported him again.
Yeah. I think 2 and out is a good for governor. I think John Rowland learned that.
Yeah.
At Thoughts 2019. So people are lining up. A few people to run against you are making rounds. Where do you stand on that? Are you going to be announcing you're running for re-election?
Well,
Bob usually asked that, but he didn't.
when I announce, I guess I'll announce.
But are you intending to run?
I have every intention to run.
Okay.
And I know there are people. I've made the job look easy and good.
Rodney Williams checking in. Thanks for listening, Rodney. So that's why you think they want to run. It doesn't always look fun to me when all the drama happens.
Well, there is drama, but I think we've done really good work here, and I'm proud of that work.
The Deltas had a legislative session last week about what they want to see happen in the Capitol. They want a $25 an hour minimum wage. Thoughts?
Well, I think that would be great if we could do it. Let's get it up to 15 and beyond. But yeah, I think that the point around minimum wage is that it affects women more than anyone else, and that if you can bring women up to a certain level, it brings the entire family up.
And they're saying 25 an hour is really what it costs if you're going to need housing and make it in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Any New Year's resolutions?
I think that to try to continue working on our clean and safe neighborhoods, to try to assure that one of the things that we want to do is to improve recycling in our city, and
that's a big challenge worldwide.
Yeah, it is.
This is a moment of truth now for recycling.
No, I think so. And to ultimately, personally, just to remain healthy, and from a city point of view, to make sure that all of our citizens remain
And I hope
healthy.
you remain healthy too.
Yes, and I
Any
wish you a
fun
good
holiday,
one.
Any fun holiday plans?
No, we're going to be spending it here in New Haven, and it will be my grandson's first Christmas.
Hope it's a great one.
And yesterday he had a little elf costume, so with Mrs. Claus.
Oh, he was hanging with Mrs. Claus. He's got a doppelganger too. Mayor Tony Harp, thanks for another wonderful year, Mayor Monday.
All right.
It's a real
great,
honor
thank
to
you.
have you in the studio here at WNHH every Monday, starting off the week great.
All
Hope you
right.
have a wonderful holiday. Hope our listeners to Mayor Monday do. Thanks for the questions and comments. Oh, Rodney, I'm sorry. We're a little late for getting the question, but I'll ask you after we get off the air. And we want to thank Gateway Community College in Bircham Moses this week and every week for financial support for today's program. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. We know what it's like to be free. We just got to remember to book our flight. Fly free with us all day, all night, and all year long here. WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.